All right, we've got a massive SoCon Saturday coming up, Valentine's Day, but we can forget about Valentine's Day just for a few minutes. We know it's special. I do understand that, but it is SoCon Saturday with a lot of implications on the line as far as the game. So we're going to take a look at some of the two biggest games I think we identified here when you're talking about Wofford on the road at UNCG, and then also the big one, ETSU hosting Samford. Both of these teams coming in on 4-game winning streaks. So both of them are playing extremely well. And you better believe there's a lot at stake right now that's going on in the Southern Conference. And so let's start, though, with UNCG hosting the Wofford Terriers. And I'm trying to figure out right now, Darren, is this UNCG team, are they slowly figuring some things out, at least on the defensive side? They were able to hold Furman to under 70 points in that road victory. They held VMI to 71 points there at home. Now, they did allow a lot in the second half, but they had such a big lead, it was almost one of those things where you lose focus. And you know how that is. I mean, we've seen it so many times that you have a big lead and it's a team that you're superior on, at least on paper. We get all of that. And sometimes you just don't have the same type of intensity. And I'm wondering if that was part of it. But they're still averaging, giving up 80 points per game in conference play. That's unheard of for Mike Jones' defensive team. But you've got Justin Neely, a double-double machine, and we continue to see just how valuable he is. And now with the Wofford Terriers, this looks like another game where you're not going to have Kamari Holmes. You're not going to have Luke Flynn. Maybe they tried to push Luke Flynn back into the lineup a little too early. And when you don't have those two type of guys like that, who are you going to lean on? Is it going to be a Chase Watley? Is it going to be a Brian Sumter that's going to have to pick up, some of that slack? Because we know Niels Mahovsky and Caden Vasco for sure are going to have to pick up the slack, but you're going to have another guy. And I know you can look at the Jaden Tyler, you can look at Chase Watley, even Brian Sumter, and we say that they're freshmen, but they're not freshmen anymore. Not at this point of the season as you're heading into the middle of February. And, it's a different type of situation, though, when now that next man up mentality is that the freshman, or what we would say a freshman, they have to be that next man up and they have to somewhat fill that void. But you do have Brendan Rigsby there that has been playing extremely well for Kevin Giltner. And I know he's been a bright spot. He plays a lot like Luke Flynn, but you need somebody that plays like Kamari Holmes when you're on the road. And I just don't know if they have that right now. Chase Watley, I think he can do some of those things, but it's Kamari Holmes. Kamari Holmes, we know, is one of the best guards in the conference. So that's a tough task to go on the road against a Spartans team that's playing really well right now.
Yeah, I think you make some excellent points there. I mean, look, there's no replacing Kamari Holmes. I mean, we're going into week 3 without him in the lineup. He's an integral piece for them if they want to be able to compete for a championship, and he gives them that ability because of what he's been able to do this year. But they have done a really good job of weathering the storm overall. They have gotten key contributions from guys like Chase Watley and Brandon Rigsby. Those guys have stepped up. They're going to obviously have to continue to do so, like you said. I don't look at this game as a trap game for Wofford, but I do think this is a game where, to your point, UNCG maybe has found a little bit of something. They've played better defensively. They certainly don't have anybody on the defensive end this year like the Langley brothers or like Tracy, from several years ago, that just bring a just different level of toughness at the head of that defense. But they have played consistently better of late. But as you mentioned, throughout the entire conference season, they still are allowing 80 points a game. And I do like Wofford's depth and their ability to score it in different ways. But they will have to play well here. I think one of the keys for UNCG is actually two keys. One is the defensive side of the ball. Can they get stops and hold Wofford in the 70s? If they can hold Wofford in the high 60s or 70s, they have a very good chance to win this game. And part of that is because I just don't know if they quite have the firepower to win a game consistently in the high 70s or into the 80s against a team like Wofford. So I say that to say, can anybody else step up in a big way other than Justin Neely? They've gotten some contributions throughout the conference season, but can they get one or two other guys that can pour 15 to 20 in if they cannot contain Wofford into that high 60s, low 70s game? I do like Wofford here to go on the road and get one, but I do think this is a game that, without being at full strength, Wofford could be in, no pun intended here, but Wofford could be in for a dogfight.
Oh, yes, no doubt. I like how that pun played out right there. So well done, sir. We're all about some of the puns here on SoCon Fast Break. And you talked about the defensive side with Mike Jones's squad and some of those past players.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really good point, because I look at this team, and I think at the end of the day, though, Darren, I think it plays out. They don't have the personnel to have defensive stoppers like we've seen. And so, from a collective unit, you just don't have some of those dudes like they've had in the past. And then from a perspective as far as, you're going to have to slow Wofford down. I mean, Wofford scored 97 points against UNCG at home in their first meeting. And now Wofford did give up 85 to UNCG. So UNCG, they can score, but can you have another freshman type of player, Lillian Marville? Can he step up? Noah Norgar, can he step up? But we've seen certain situations, they can get going from an offensive standpoint. Certainly. And, I think Valentino Pinedo, I think he can be a difference maker also. I think he's a little bit underrated in terms of what he can provide. Rebounding is going to be paramount in this game if you can keep Justin Neely off the boards here. But you know what? I think this is a situation where I think UNCG is going to get one at home.
Okay.
I think they're going to be able to slow things down just enough. I think Mahovsky is going to get his. He's going to have to be a guy. Caden Vasco is going to be the facilitator. We do know that. But I think this could be a very physical type of game. And just being without Kamari Holmes and Luke Flynn, I think that just puts them as a disadvantage right now. It's just very difficult. And I think UNCG is playing well right now.
No, they certainly are. Like you mentioned it. I mean, 3-game winning streak, and they seem to maybe have found some a little bit of a defensive identity to a degree. But I think you mentioned too of just having guys step up. I look to Noah Norgard and KJ Younger. Can those two guys step up? And
I didn't even mention KJ Younger. Yeah, exactly, Darren.
Can they be double-digit scorers?
Yes.
No.
That's
I mean,
right.
Hey, there's a lot of things going on, man. We're juggling. But yeah, like, can those two guys be double-digit scorers? If those guys can get, call it 14 to 18, I think that puts UNCG in a really good spot, because you know what you're going to get from Justin Neely. He's going to get you a double-double. Like, it's just going to be automatic, and he has played even better scoring it in the league than he was in non-conference. So he's a guy that's it's pretty likely he's going to get you 18 and 10, 20 and 12. So can they get those two other guys? I look at those two other guys is can they step up offensively? They're going to be a tough matchup at home with a Kamari Holmes-less Wofford bunch.
Yeah, they definitely, UNCG that is, do not have the perimeter defense like we've seen. They don't have the perimeter shutdown guys, and you have to be able to defend out on the perimeter, and that's going to be a tough task for them. So that's why I do think, though, this game comes down to rebounding and three-point shooting. If somebody's shooting 40%, likelihood that team is going to win. And can it be UNCG or Wofford? But so I'm going UNCG. You're saying Wofford. All right, let's head up to Johnson City, Tennessee, as we'll tip off things pretty early there. Noon tip off there in Johnson City, as you're talking about teams playing hot right now.
Two hottest teams in the league.
Yes, the two hottest teams in the league. So why not have them meet on Valentine's Day? Red hot, that's for certain, as both of them are coming into this game with 4-game winning streaks. And we've talked about it, somewhat putting the pieces of the jigsaw puzzle together. And is this a revenge type of game? The heartbreak for Samford, where Keaton Norris hits the big three. They think they've won it. 7 seconds to go, and you've got Jalen Smith coming up the court. He drives. Dylan Faulkner has to come off of Blake Barkley to try to block the shot. And then there's Blake Barkley, grabs the offensive rebound, tip back in, game over. And ETSU walks away with a victory right there on the road. Now Samford, how are they going to be able to continue the momentum and maybe not think about this as a revenge type of game? You just want to be focused on doing what you're doing right now in the moment, because they're playing extremely well on the offensive side. Dylan Faulkner, double-double machine, as we've talked about with Justin Neely. And you've mentioned it several times. The Norris brothers, they're stepping up right now.
Yeah.
And I love what you said earlier. It's not that they were playing bad. It's just that now they've taken their game to another level in terms of their production. And that has alleviated the ability that teams can't just sit back and, defend Dylan Faulkner. They have to come out. They're going to have to come out anyway against Jaden Booth, but now even more so when you've got the Norris brothers, how they've been able to play. So this is a big one in terms of outside perimeter shooting, perimeter precision versus interior physicality and dominance. And obviously, from the standpoint of ETSU, when you've got Cam Morris III and you've got Blake Barkley, and don't forget about Jordan McCollum. I'm telling you, I think people forget about Jordan McCollum, how he can be effective inside and he can step out also with his versatility because of his size. And so this is big time matchup in the Southern Conference, and especially for a Samford team that's really trying to make a statement that they can be one of the top tier teams. I think they're surging, and they go getting this win, Darren. You can't tell me they're not a team that is right in position to be one of the true contenders to win a title this season.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Like if they go into Johnson City and win that game and get 5 in a row, to me, they get added to the list of teams that in Asheville would not surprise me if they cut down the nets. I still think for them, I really want to see them in this matchup. Can they withstand the physicality? Can they play a grinded out game and get a win if they need to? So to me, this really comes down to defense for Samford, particularly as you mentioned on the interior. My fellow Midwesterners, the Norris brothers, are playing really well. As you mentioned, I'd said earlier, like I think they are the reason. Not to take anything away from anyone else playing well, but I think those two guys are the reason that they've taken a step forward. And they both shoot it well from deep. So to your point, now you've got 3 guys that can really fill it up, and that helps Jaden Buckets out because you just can't necessarily throw 2 at him, and now you're having to account for a lot more shooters on the floor. So from a defensive scheming perspective, that gets a little bit harder.
Did I say Jaden Booth? I did, didn't I?
Well, the only reason
I'm not even listening to what we've talked about. It's no longer Jaden Booth. What the hell am I doing? It's Jaden Buckets. We know it's Jaden Buckets, baby. Come on, Weaver. I got to get in the game here.
No, but all seriousness, can they? I really think for them, this is a matchup for me where I think they'll tell me a lot because this is going to be a physical game.
Yes.
And I'm not questioning Samford's physicalness, but they tend to be a little bit more of a finesse team, and they will want to play at a quicker pace. And, can they match the physicality that ETSU is going to bring? And look, I've said it a million times before, Johnson City is not an easy place to go in and win a ball game at. And so
it's going to be rowdy.
It's going to be rowdy. It's a Saturday game. It is an early start, but it's a Saturday game. They just have to go into it that this is just another Saturday afternoon at the crib, and let's go find a way to get a win.
That's right, and just go defend home court. That's it.
Yeah.
This is their mantra, and play the style of basketball that they want to play, and that's physical type of basketball. Yep. And this is an interesting matchup just from strength on strength and which one's going to give in terms of ETSU. We know from a defensive standpoint how stellar they are. Yeah. They lead the conference, averaging almost 10 steals per game.
Yeah.
But then Samford, they average less than 10 turnovers per game, and they also lead the conference in assists per game at just over 15 and a half. Now, that's conference games only, and I think it's also appropriate that we really start looking at conference-only stats.
Oh, yeah,
absolutely. Not the non-conference. So when we're saying some of these stats, this is about conference-only stats because it's the most comparable stats out there, and we've got enough data to support it now. Yeah. As you talked about, there's only 5 games left in the season here, and it's one thing to be able to force some team into turnovers, or a team has, a lot of turnovers, but it's another thing when you start looking at live ball turnovers instead of the dead ball turnovers.
Yeah,
exactly.
Live ball turnovers are killers.
Are killers. And that's why when you're averaging almost 10 steals per game, that's live ball turnovers right there. That's it. You're creating the opportunity of getting out in transition, and that's where ETSU can really do some of their damage. We know they're not going to be fast-paced in terms of a tempo perspective and average pace per game from that standpoint, but we do know that they'll hunt some of those advantages, and they will do that. Yes, and that's why even on Samford's side, though, just from a perspective, I think that's why they also are sitting in that situation because they understand that offense Lenny Acuff is running. They're really starting to come together with that. And a lot of times, it's not so much that these good offensive teams are running set plays, set offenses. They're reading and reacting, and they're hunting for advantages based on the principles that they understand. And I think right now we're seeing that they're understanding Coach Acuff's principles extremely well on this 4-game winning streak.
Yeah, and Samford's a team that the way they play, the way Coach Acuff plays, if they're taking care of the ball, they're likely going to generate a good look. Now,
yes,
obviously got to make those, but they're going to generate a lot of good looks. And so that is intriguing.
And Jaden Buckets is in conference. He's shooting almost 47% from beyond the arc. He's getting those good looks.
Yeah, no, for sure. And this is kind of a duh comment, but if Samford can generate good looks and knock down a high clip of threes, they're going to put themselves in a really good spot. Just with what ETSU ultimately is looking to try to do when they're trying to really come at you, and what their identity really is, and that's to turn you over.
That's right. Well, I think this is a situation where I think they're going to get just enough looks, good looks, and they're going to knock them down. I'm taking Samford on the road in Johnson City. I just think that they've got the offensive firepower out on the perimeter. It's going to be a tough task for Alan Struthers to slow Jaden Buckets down, and I'm taking the Bulldogs here. I just got a feeling that they're getting hot right now, and they're going to be a team that nobody wants to see on their schedule, and especially they don't want to see them in Asheville.
No, I agree with you. There's just something that tells me that this Samford team is clicking on all cylinders right now, and I actually do think from a matchup perspective, I think they're going to continue their hot shooting. And that is going to be a challenge for ETSU to keep up with.
If ETSU wants to really be able to win this game, Brian Taylor II is going to have a big-time game. He's going to have to step up.
I think that ETSU is going to have to do 2 things. They're going to have to turn Samford over. They're going to 3 things. They're going to have to turn Samford over. They're going to have to guard the 3-point line, and they are going to have to punch the paint. They're going to have to punish Samford in the paint.
Punish it.
Whether that's interior scoring or getting paint touches and spraying out.
Yes.
I think those are really the 3 keys, to me at least, for ETSU to win this game.
We do have other games, and just real quick, Furman traveling to VMI, and this is one where you don't look at the schedule and say, oh, that's going to be a get-right type of game, but this is one where Furman Coming off of that tough loss against Mercer, lost 3 in a row now, you've got to go out on the road against VMI and pick up the win if you want to continue to put yourself in position to finish in the top 6 there to get to Asheville. And then also Mercer on the road at the Citadel. And again, now Mercer, okay, you got the big win against Furman. Now you got to go on the road, and the Citadel hasn't been playing. They haven't had Christian Moore, I should say, playing in the past 3 games. So can they have him back in the lineup at home? Ed Conroy's doing a fantastic job with the Citadel right now. And then also you got Western Carolina at Chattanooga. Again, for Western Carolina, you want to try to somehow get into that top 6. You definitely have got to go get this win against Chattanooga, who just lost to ETSU in that Battle of Tennessee. So those games also will have implications on the standings, that's for certain. And we'll be talking about all of that on Monday's episode of SoCon Fast Break. And so if you don't want to miss any of that, just make sure you hit that subscribe button or even the follow on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast, including the iHeartRadio app. Until next time, may all your jumpers hit nothing but the bottom of the net.